He's doing it layer one, and it's in Terrell, Texas, which is
we go. Okay. I'm talking, but for whatever reason. Okay. Oh, okay. Here we go. All right. There we go. Our audio is all live. Good afternoon, good evening, or good afternoon, actually, not good evening. Good day to everybody. Thank you for joining in on this episode of Dungeoneers Pack Live. As you can tell, I'm not alone again this weekend. I'm joined by my buddy Eric from Fry Minis.
Howdy.
And we are going to be talking about what everybody and their mom has been talking about, the future of Dungeons and Dragons. For those that are not in the know, last weekend it was D&D Celebration for 2021, and Wizards had this big rollout, a bunch of games going on to pretty much hype up the 3 books that are coming out this week, and then they had a panel right at the end, which was the future of D&D, where they did not really announce anything really new, but they let something not necessarily slip, but they let us know that in the 50th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons, it'll be 50 years old in 2024. 5th edition is getting, or the franchise itself is getting an evolution. To what extent what will happen with 5th edition? The only thing they said, whatever's coming in 2024, is that it will be backwards compatible to 5th edition. So if you've been keeping up with all the other content creators, other influences in the D&D space, everybody's had an opinion on it, and this is ours for this. Instead of doing a video, we're gonna do it live and answer your guys' questions, or get your guys' feedback for what you guys think is gonna happen to the game. But before we just jump right into it, because there really isn't any other news, I'm just gonna go straight into the question of the week. See what the Dungeoneers Pack community had to say about what they think is going to be in the future update for D&D 2024. Joseph Dunn said he wants to see weaker classes and subclasses to be rebalanced, change the action economy of action bonus to action movement to maybe 3-phase combat similar to Pathfinder, and then overall increase the complexity of combat. Also make the game a little bit harder, making death a legitimate concern once again, and possibly 2 new classes and an item crafting system. Right. Jalen Smith saying, honestly, a few things wouldn't hurt. Another adventure that goes to level 20, a magic item compendium, a crafting guide, and also possibly a new dog race. Not like a shifter, but an actual dog race, which makes sense. We have Tabaxi and pretty much every other anthropomorphic kind of character. So a dog race would not be a bad idea. Ig Vital says more classes, more cool subclasses, cool crafting system, and more settings, a better system for personal traits, bond, flaws, and so on. A lighter version. Robin Yeager says more lineages, particularly more love for half-dragon, not dragonborn, but half-dragon, and like a draconic sorcerer, probably like a big fix. And then reworking of weaker classes and subclasses. Psionics from Crazy Black Cat, Gato Negro Loco, making me speak my Spanish. Yeah, but yeah, they want psionics. That's all they want. And then more on. Everybody's pretty much responding the same thing. They want a crafting system, fixes to classes and subclasses, power ups. But the only thing is nobody's agreeing on which classes need power ups. That's what I'm noticing. And and then pretty much that's it. More of what we're already doing. So that's where the community's at. They want more of whatever is already there, and also to fix stuff that they personally feel is not balanced. But yeah, let's talk about it. Eric, what do you think? We'll go with the big one. What do you think the big picture is for this update?
Oh man, I think it's cool. I think anybody involved with D&D or like on the creator side here, I think everybody predicted that there would be some, whether it's a full on 6E or this, like, they're not calling it 5.5, but 5.5 kind of update here for the 50th anniversary. I've seen a couple people say, "Oh, I got it." Well, I think everybody did, but it's I don't know any insider information, but I would advise caution on expectations here, right?
Yeah.
Uh, with how conservative Wizards has been with any changes, going back and adding spells known to sorcerers, like even like fundamentally basic stuff like that, that is like universally agreed would be a big help. They really don't do it. I mean, we've got Blade Singer, right? And that's like
Yeah.
the only and the Ranger stuff. But aside from that, I think we're really looking at kind of minor tweaks, very minor mechanical things. Again, speculation, of course. But I think most of the changes we're going to see are going to be more changes in line with what we did with, or what they did with all the Ravenloft stuff,
Yeah.
and the reworking of the Vistani. I think we'll see things like the alignment changes kind of codified across the board with the new stat blocks, kind of like the orc stuff and the drow stuff. That I think is where the bulk of the changes will probably end up. Yes, I do think we'll see some mechanical changes. Yes, I think we'll see some tweaks and maybe some total overhauls of small things. Uh, I would love to see a total change on how feats are handled, but I don't think we're going to see that. Uh, I'm all about feats and customization and tweaks, and I just can't. I just don't see Wizards doing a total rework of anything that dramatic
And I'm in the
while
same.
still being compatible. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm in the same mindset. I'm seeing a lot of discussion about like full total reworks of like base system stuff that knowing, and just on the player side of just having to like look at classes, subclasses, and for just content on the channel, that will 100% disrupt and upend like whatever semblance of balance the game actually has. And they're what people want, or I would say this, what a vocal minority wants out of the game. And it may seem like there is a wave of a majority saying this, but in reality, on the internet, the only ones really speaking up that want massive changes, the reality is it's a vocal minority. Um, those changes, I think, those expectations need to be tempered. You will be disappointed. Like what Eric you said, like Wizards is very conservative in how they approach any sort of change. Period. I've played Magic the Gathering for a very long time, and they are the exact same way. Anytime they've done any drastic push or change, there's been immediate pushback. So they've pretty much went back to a more conservative approach to how they do that. And then the D&D side is even more conservative, where they don't bring in massive changes. Tasha's was probably like the biggest change that came into 5th edition, and even then, it was mainly the racial lineage changes. And even then, I would even say they didn't go far enough for that. They went with a very simplistic set of rules to change things. And I think people that are wanting a full on 5.5 or 6 edition need to kind of look at Tasha's and kind of see that's the level of change what we're probably going to get. It'll be a I do think there is going to be some classes, some classes that are going to get rebalanced. And Cleric's Court brought up the fact too that the new book that's being bundled in the expanded rules bundle that they're coming out in January with, they're putting in Mordenkainen Presents Monsters of the Multiverse, which is going to have all the setting agnostic races and lineages be brought into updated. Also, they're going to be power balanced and updated in that book, and eventually they're going to re-release that book as a solo book. Um, and I think that's what we're going to see, a lot of small little tweaks and balances to get everything up to Asha's and Xanathar level of power play. That's the sweet spot. But yeah, the greater, bigger picture, I don't think this is the big change, the big next addition. From a business standpoint, Wizards has no incentive to leave 5th edition. I think that's what people don't realize. 5th edition is mega popular as long as Critical Role and all these other big streaming shows continue to support 5th edition. And then as long as people like us, content creators, still buy 5th edition and still keep telling people, hey, this is a fun game, and people still have generally fun with it, gonna keep buying. Look, you're gonna keep buying this game. All right, Philip
Yeah,
D.
I think it's an interesting position to be in. Exactly like you said about motivation as a from a business perspective. It's the most popular edition ever, right? Uh, and they've committed to that backwards compatibility, which I think is great. But that does put it in a situation where is it you kind of do it like with Blade Singer, for example, where it's just like here's just a reprint and this is the most up to date version, but that gets into that additioning of options that I don't think Wizards wants to be in, and then or you just call the whole thing optional, which I mean it's when you're playing at your house, anything's optional, right?
Yeah,
But officially calling it like an optional class feature type of situation. But
yeah,
then it loses power with things like Adventurers League or people that are like book purists kind of people.
yeah.
Uh, and and that's why I think it'll be fairly limited in scope on a lot of these changes.
Philip D brings up another good point too. I feel like there are more changes you make to the more changes you make, the harder it is to make all the books compatible. Like half your players could be using one set of rules, and the other would be using a totally different set. And yeah, that's one of the things I think. Doing the backwards compatible thing, I think even throwing that out there, like saying it's backwards compatible, um, that brings up obviously like anybody that plays video games. Every time they release a new PlayStation, a new Xbox, that's the biggest concern. Are my old games going to be compatible? Now they don't even care. They just like, no, we're just going to resell you the game updated with better graphics on this new thing, but you need to pay for it, you
Yeah.
know. But when you bring up the idea of backwards compatible, it gives you a sense that, oh, they are making big changes, and I don't really think there's going to be big changes. To be honest, it's just yeah, they have no business sense to do it. Um, it's not where you would go from like I never played 3.5 or yeah, 3rd edition, 3.5 and 4th edition. Um, obviously 3.5 came out because 3rd edition's rules were not strong. They needed to fix things because things were not working to the player expectation. And then obviously 3.5 fell off because it was a book too much book expansion. It was like the big thing, and then a lot of third party stuff just kind of flooded the market where people, and then you needed too many different books just to play a cohesive character. From what a lot of what I've read, and even stuff my buddies who played 3.5 and loved 3.5 said, yeah, well, you need this book and that book and that book, and I'm just like, man, that does not sound fun. As a 5th edition baby, it's like I the fact that I can just use the player's handbook, even though like I like Tasha's and Xanathar's, the fact that I can just use player's handbook and my character is still viable
Mhm.
regardless of where I play is like super rewarding and safe for those wanting to get in. What's going on, Aaron?
Hey.
Um,
Uh, yeah, I completely agree. I think an interesting consideration for all of this though is it's 2021, right? We
yeah,
have D&D Beyond. You've got Roll20 and all that. If you don't know, Wizards of the Coast, in one of their more recent surveys, they put out questions about if there was a official D&D virtual tabletop. So if everything were to be combined on one official platform, that could at least reduce that book bloat
yeah,
situation. Like right now, D&D Beyond, I think does that for me, but that means I am buying the book in physical. Well, normally buying the book in
mhm,
physical, and then also buying it on D&D Beyond. If and I absolutely love D&D Beyond. They've done fantastic job and huge growth
yeah,
from launch to where they're at now. But if it was all bound together by Wizards of the Coast, and they did find out a way to do like a code for a discount or something like that, which I know everybody always brings up whenever they talk about D&D Beyond. And then the answer is, well, it's a different company. But here, if it is all the same company, then I could see that. And so then if you go to dndevolution.com or whatever, and then you've got all your stuff right there, and it's always showing the most up-to-date version, then you don't need to worry about that. I know people still like the physical books. I feel like I don't know this, but I just feel like Jeremy Crawford will eventually die with a book in his hand.
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
so I can't imagine him ever being too reliant on a digital resource. But that way, that handles all that stuff. And a thing that I've wanted to see just forever, but really recently, especially with this hair and gun hopping
Yeah.
nonsense, is to have an expanded description. So you have in the book right now, like you've got your normal, short, easy, digestible kind of thing. But I would just love to see either like a PDF or an appendix or a digital, totally like online resource, talking like with examples of how each thing works. So you get context. You can go into where if you do need, wait, how does this actually work? How does that interact? Where you'd have that expanded resource. And if it's all online, you don't need to worry about page count. You can load it in there. So you keep the short description in the book, and then for more details, see website. And I just think that would be helpful for somebody like me who is a DM and wants to know everything inside and out. For me as a player who wants to make sure I'm using my abilities correctly, and as a creator who wants to understand design philosophy and their intent a little bit better.
Yeah, and that actually brings up another thing. While everybody is on the edition craze and stuff, but you bring up the point that with that survey that they are going into a more digital arena for D&D on their end. Obviously with like D&D Beyond and what is it? It's Fantasy Grounds, Roll20. Everybody has copies of the books, but having everything located in a central location, and then also with DM's Guild with additional third party people jumping in on introducing product. Do you think that maybe this evolution isn't necessarily a new addition, but maybe just a digital strategy now that they can actually control?
I At this point, we're so far out. I don't think anything's off the table. Uh, I do think they'll use the opportunity for some language tweaks and some cleanup. But I wouldn't be surprised if, I mean, and obviously they kept using the word evolution over and over, right? Kind of like the playtest for 5e was next, the
Yeah,
next edition, DD
yeah,
next. Uh, so evolving from a book focused game to a online focused game, I wouldn't be surprised. I just don't see people paying full price like universally for
yeah,
their books online. Like on D&D Beyond, most books are like $30 instead of $50, right? And then also buying the book physically. If I mean, luckily, I'm fortunate enough to get the books from Wizards now for review stuff. But if that wasn't the case, and D&D Beyond wasn't an option, and I had to pay $50 for a book, physical or digital, right now I would probably buy the digital version
yeah,
if it was through this platform. And yes, I get that you have the book, you have it forever. If the power goes out, you're still playing D&D kind of thing. But the convenience of online is just search alone,
yeah,
bookmarks. It's really powerful, and especially if it integrates into a VTT automatically.
yeah.
So like I love Foundry. That's my favorite robust VTT with all
Yeah,
the integrations and the
I
capabilities.
I 100%
But
agree with that one. I've only played using it once, but if I was able to keep running it, yeah, I would. That's one I would recommend. Foundry is a really
yeah,
really good one.
but it's a challenge to
Mhm.
get up and running. I mean, think of it like you're running Linux or something,
Yeah,
right? Like it's got the most overall capability, but it is not just pop in and check it out. Uh, on the other side, I love Owlbear Rodeo because
oh yeah,
it's the exact opposite.
Uh,
You just upload a picture, you pick your grid lines, you can do Fog of War if you want, but otherwise it's just tokens, and you do everything else physical or D&D Beyond or whatever you want. It's just a map service kind of thing.
yeah,
Uh, and I would love to see both ends of that spectrum supported in an official service,
officially.
which I think would be evolutionary.
All right. I think more of like industry thing for us on content creator side and streamers and everything. What do you think for, and also the content creator and also third party homebrewers and stuff that go into DM's Guild? How do you think this affects pretty much us? What do you think the outlook is when it comes to us?
Uh, so I've seen some speculation that 5.5 would bring about the end of the open gaming license, so the ability to use the content. I would be surprised by that. I feel like it's just too much. kind of goodwill in the community. I feel like it's too much free advertising almost.
Yeah.
It's just and at the end of the day, honestly, people are still going to do it. Like what only thing you'll be cutting out would be like Kobold Press, like people who are making incredible
Yeah.
content and making money off of it. You're only punishing like the best of the best kind of thing, people. Whereas other people that are just like doing whatever, they're still going to do it, whether they have a license or not. Like to post on Unearthed Arcana subreddit or whatever. They're still going to do that.
Yeah, and that's the big thing I see. Like, that's the big worry that I saw. I think it originated from Nerd Immersion, and I've seen in our content creator circles, especially those that do homebrew and stuff on the side and actually sell stuff on DM's Guild, and in general amongst designers, that they're afraid or concerned with how the OGL pretty much going away. Everybody would have to be forced to go through DM's Guild so that officially Wizards will get a cut of it. Um,
Yeah.
and that for
I,
content creators, for us, that would just mean we'd have to be very careful about the kind of stuff we have to post or how we would present the information. When obviously right now we're kind of, most of us are free reign to kind of just post stuff with full context. Here's the exact rules, how it is printed in the book. With all that stuff kind of like being removed, we wouldn't be able to do that. We'd have to paraphrase, or we'd have to talk about it but not necessarily show it. Is really would put us in like really weird waters. Especially like
yeah.
for example, Critical Role. They just rolled out their rules for streamers and content creators on YouTube on how to just use their content for this from the stream to create clips. So there's people that make a living off of reclipping and putting into context several clips for their from Critical Role stream, and now there's rules in place on them to protect Critical Role. And that's kind of the situation we as content creators get put in, and then even more so in a bind that for designers. So places like Cobalt Press, the big guys, and even those that are just doing it on the side for their own side hustle, um, also too would be put in a bind that they'd be forced to only go through one market, one entry
Yeah.
point.
I understand. So I'm conflicted, right?
Mhm.
Like from Wizards of the Coast perspective, I understand trying to route everything through DM's Guild. I think having that one resource, that way things can be vetted. I get it. But I've stopped putting stuff on DM's Guild. The fact that once I upload it to DM's Guild, it is permanently and forever signed over.
Mhm.
And like it's to where they're not getting 50% of my cut. I'm getting 50% of their cut is
Yeah,
like how it works. And it's I don't know. I I just don't do it anymore. I could see doing different content, like having because you can use more wizards
yeah,
content or material, right? When you go
yeah,
through DM skill, which is great. Otherwise, you're stuck to just basic rules stuff, which is what I do. So, like all my on my Patreon stuff, PDFs we do, everything there is from the basic rules. If you so like all the subclasses that we do that get extra spells or whatever, those are all basic rules SRD content. So I'm okay working with that limitation
yeah,
outside of it, but that 50% cut, it is rough. So if you don't know, everybody on DM's Guild, when you upload something, you permanently sign it over to Wizards of the Coast. It is theirs. They can take it, they can use it, whatever they want, with nothing beyond that. You can't repost it anywhere, even for free. You can't like email it to you can't post it on your Discord, I think, like
yeah.
technically. Uh, and you're only getting 50%. So if I'm selling it for $1, I get 50 cents and Wizards gets 50 cents for every sale.
And that is why when you're seeing in designers too that are making stuff with just the SRD outside of DM's Guild, they are forced to, like Stephen Harris says, when they're trying to make a warlock, for example, they often make up their
Yeah.
own spells. So you're seeing stuff like that. They make up their own spells and stuff to give them the flavor, even though, like, say they want to use Tasha's Caustic Brew because it fits within
Yeah.
the fits with that subclass, but they can't use it if they want to make money off of it. So they end up making something that's very similar to Caustic Brew, not named Caustic Brew, and that does pretty much similar things. So that's why you see that kind of stuff. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
usually don't have a problem with the spell selection for like levels 1 and 2. Those are usually totally fine. There's enough variety. But starting at 3 and then really hitting in 4 and 5 for bonus spells, that's where the limited number of SRD spells usually hurts. Um, and I get creating new spells, and that's cool. I try not to do it though, but whatever.
it happens. It's the
Yeah.
juices flowing. All right. So now, in terms of hopes and wishes, what are
Mm.
the things that you want to see change for fifth edition? Whether you think that's going to happen or not.
I don't think it's gonna happen, but I want to see a race of Banderhobs added to the game.
All right. If you guys don't know, Prime Minis is doing Banderhoptober,
Where
releasing
everybody's doing
Banderhoptober,
Banderhobtober.
releasing and a bunch of fun content revolving around the Banderhobs. For those that don't know, it's something in his community that is, I guess officially we can call it a meme. It'd be a meme that within the community that if you don't know, you should get into his Discord and figure and know. But yeah, there's some fun stuff. There's what you have a race and then you have a subclass going on right now too.
Yeah. So it's all free content. We've got and thanks for the plug. We've got a Banderborn. It's a race of like an offshoot of Banderhobs. So Banderhobs, their lore, they're kind of scary, kind of spooky, kind of created as like little task bunnies for witches and for hags. But these are good ones. These are good ones. And we've got a whole lore section and everything for them. And then we have a barbarian primal path of the Banderhob. So you can transform into Banderhob, get your big tongue attack and swallow things. It's a lot of fun, but we're also we've got a painting contest going. So we're big into miniature painting. So if you paint up a Banderhob or Banderhob adjacent mini to look like a Banderhob, and you go on our Discord at discord.gg/fry minis, you can enter. It's free to enter. And we've got prizes, $50 to miniaturemarket.com. And if you're in the US and you happen to be a winner, we'll send you a print of a Banderhob. So thanks.
Yeah.
Discord.gg/fry minis. We'd love to
Yes.
see you over there.
Yes. See,
Uh,
you'll see me in there. I post frequently. I think me and Julie are in a posting contest now. We're the top poster
yeah.
in the Discord.
To be top poster.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, definitely go in there, check it out. I'm in there. I post frequently. Awesome. You have an amazing community there. Growing
Thank you.
quick. Growing quick too.
Thank you. Yeah. But for real stuff that I'd really like to see, but I don't expect to see, uh, the feat thing for me is big. I would love to see an uncoupling of ASI and feat choice, because you need to increase your stats, right? Like you just have to, otherwise your character is not going to be potent. But the feats are fun, and when we put a choice for a player between natural progression of their character and fun, I don't think that's a fun choice to make, right? So if we could like reduce the power of feats, but give you more feat choices, and maybe you just pick ASI and a feat, and there are no more like half feats or anything like. I don't know. I'm not wizards, but I think something around there. I really do like the feat system with Pathfinder, too, where you get a like a race, or they call it ancestry, right? You get something based on what you are, and you can pick a couple of those, and then you can pick a couple from your class as you level up. And I don't know, I don't play Pathfinder, but you can pick some from your background, and so you can just build this like really special and cool character that would be hard to replicate unless you're trying to, in a different character. Because right now, great weapon master, sharpshooter,
No.
like it's all the same. So that's one of the reasons I like to give feat options as like bonus, like quest reward kind of things. So
Yeah.
that way you get ones that aren't as powerful, mechanically powerful. Even if you're not trying to meta game or anything, like if you're an archer, if you don't take sharpshooter, you're intentionally limiting your output.
Yeah.
But whatever.
And yeah, and that's only if you are playing with feats and stuff, because obviously feats technically are optional. Technically
Technically,
are
yes,
optional.
just like multi-class
No,
is
same, but
technically optional.
even
Yeah,
even then
but
with designers and stuff that I've seen, like I've been reading more designer stuff a lot lately. They can, for balance reasons, they automatically include it into the thing, into the game. Like when they're designing something, they balance their subclass or whatever class they're designing around certain feats just because of how busted they are.
yeah, yeah, and you also have to balance around level dipping,
Yeah,
right? So like I would never give a level 1 or 2 feature that it scales based off of proficiency bonus. That's that's silly to me because you like peace domain cleric,
yeah,
right? Yeah, so obviously that's powerful. So just with one level, it'll keep growing with you. Save those for like those level 6 and higher features. So you've invested in the class and you've kind of earned that from to me. And then the lower stuff, keep it to like once a short rest or whatever, or your like spellcasting modifier times per day, whatever. That way you're reducing the dip level. I would love to see for Hex Blade, I would love to see the charisma thing moved off the charisma attacks
yeah,
moved
yeah,
off of Hex Blade and moved to pack to the blade.
yeah,
I think like changes like that. That's what I could see with a 5.5,
yeah.
where it's still the same general feeling. And if you invest and if you go that route with your character, you'll end up the same, but it's just the path you take to get there is just a little different.
Yeah, for me, I don't want a lot of massive changes. Like in a dream setting, obviously, if I had everything my way, more player choices, more complexity in how you can build your character. I think anybody on the player side that like just loves to number crunch. I don't like to number crunch, but I like to have options to create a flavor of a character, whether if it's strong or not. Um, as you can, last week I posted a Haragon character build, and it's not the most optimal if you really looked at it. But it's for me, it's like it's the flavor is fun, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So having the options, like you said, I would want a fixed and expanded feat system, adding in way more complexity and more options, more thoughtful options that actually are impactful and not. And unfortunately, they would have to nerf the big guys. So you'd have to nerf Grapple Master, Sentinel, etc., and spread some of those abilities out, or maybe even make them as a feat tree if like you invest more as you progress to
Mhm.
get to that level. I would like to
I'm
see stuff
totally
like
cool with feat trees.
yeah. And then a crafting system, like a full blown like crafting system. Xanathar's has a set of rules that are better than what's in the base books. But overall, like it, I'd want a crafting system. I'd want a fixed skill system. I think the biggest point of contention with fifth edition in terms of skills is that it's pass or fail, and that's it, and it's on the DM to kind of figure out how to navigate that. A lot of what I've seen in early 5e content creators, they brought back the skill check stuff from fourth edition and skill challenges. I think that's what it's called, where you had to
Mhm.
complete a set of skills. I think introducing and bringing in that sort of element into an update wouldn't change too much of how 5e works. It would actually make the game a little bit more interactive, and I think it just that would help stuff like Ranger, who the base Ranger in the player's handbook um, struggles in large part because of how skills work. It is the survivalist class that's supposed to be the one that goes scouts and gathering and stuff. But if most of that gathering and abilities are kind of pass fail or just ignore it, or you're not interacting with one big pillar of the game, and that class feels weak compared to everybody else because it's literally I do it and or I don't, or I have an ability that just lets me skip it. I would like to see that class balancing, subclass balancing. You suggested Hex Blade. I 100% agreed. Hex Blade needs to get depowered. I'm sorry. It is a very, very powerful option. I'll have a video up on that one next week, but um, it's one of these options that are exciting. The whole class fantasy is amazing. It's you have this
Mhm.
magical weapon, you create this bond, and that weapon is giving you power. And then to do whatever task you want, whether that weapon is bonded to another patron or the weapon is the patron itself, it has really cool class fantasy. But the fact that you have that charisma as your main attack stat is one of the is makes it super easy just to level dip. And it already has a bunch of other stuff to support the mechanical playstyle that already make it strong at level 1. That just that little cherry on top just pushes it way too over the edge. So I would like to see a change to that. Um, in terms of how classes like that, so the Hex Blade and other powerful classes, like I would even say Blade Singer might be in there now because of the change in Tasha's, how the extra attack works. Um, or actually, not even Blade Singer, Peace Cleric and Twilight Cleric.
Yeah.
These powerful classes, what they do, they warp design and they warp player expectation. And that's one thing I would hope in a update that kind of gets addressed and fixed, where they do have a standard level and they kind of actually mechanic wise, I know designers would love this. Um, Kind of keep it everything kind of balanced, and not continually to push up. Um, in terms
Yeah.
of like flavor wise, I like all those things hit flavor that are perfect. They tell the story, but that's one of those things. It's like the more I delve into mechanics and balance, yeah, those are the big three that I think stick out.
Yeah. So with that balance thing, so for me personally, I don't like things can be unbalanced as the DM. If my party is mega strong and they're just walking through everything, I can just give them stronger monsters. I like that. To me, that's okay.
Mhm.
If one player is playing uh Hex Blade Paladin multi-class that's like just blowing everything up, like that's okay. I can give extra perks or whatever cool items to the other players, so in real life play they balance out. Uh, but the problem, so if they're not all average, that's okay. If they're not all
Yep.
like identically powerful, the problem is when you run into things that are wildly different.
Yeah.
Like you said, it completely changes the like sub like design of these things. That it's just it. And again, that's for my table, so I can do whatever I want. But if I'm playing Adventurers
League.
League or whatever, and I mean, I remember like 2017, 2018, you'd sit down at an AL table, and it's nothing but Hex Blade.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
I don't know how you can't like see these real life examples and be like, okay,
Yeah.
there
Yeah, and
there's
Stephen
something.
Harris brought up Hexblade Paladin, the same party as an old book Beastmaster Ranger. Yep, like Hexblade. Like as you said, Eric, the what you do at your table, you can balance these yourself. Obviously, putting harder enemies, giving classes like for in Stefan's example, Beastmaster Ranger, and then a Hexblade Paladin. You give that Beastmaster Ranger magic items or something to keep them up to the same power level. Like the DMs have the tools to do this.
Yeah.
They just need to have the skill to see it and then address it. But I think in terms of how powerful these things are, not just mechanically, but in terms of character diversity, um, if everybody's playing the same character or in every campaign, it's you can't avoid the optimization min maxing sort of thing. Like if you want to play, you have a character in mind, but if your one player option is the most viable or the strongest one, and everybody just gravitates towards it every time. I think I've had 3 Hex Blades in 3 of our campaigns. There's at least one, or at least a level dip. I'm not even gonna
Yeah.
avoid. Like I didn't even
It's the
shy away
level
from
dips
it.
that get
I
it.
took a level dip into Hexblade twice in 2 different campaigns because I played a
Yeah.
bard just because of the charisma.
Yeah, I want to address something
Yeah.
Stephen Harris here
Yeah.
said. You can't fix that without looking like you're playing favorites. So this is why balancing and playing and just creating for this game is so hard. At my table with my players, my friends, if everybody if one person is just blowing it up, and then I give those perks to the other people to keep them up to pace, they're going to be okay with that because they want everybody to have a good experience. Like, and you might still have somebody who's stronger, so you might not try to get them equal, but you don't want anybody lagging behind, right? So my players are going to be on board with helping out that other person, but I also don't have those players that are going to min max optimize like to the extreme.
Yeah.
Like, of course, making a smart character is important, but they're not going to go that hardcore. Now with something like AL, yeah, like yeah, you can't do that, but you can't play the favorites in the first place and give people like it is what it
Yeah.
is. But you have people who will take offense. You have those players, those people who will say, "Well, it's not fair that they're getting this extra thing and I'm not." Those aren't necessarily the kind of people that I super want to play with. And so I don't know. That's kind of a table level decision.
And that actually brings me to another thing for this big update. For DMs, what like obviously with player stuff, there's a bunch of stuff people are going to be honing in on like what they want to update, and we'll get to that in a second. But for DM stuff, what do you think they can do in this update to help DMs with the game? Because obviously DM stuff is very fifth edition. Like, there's no secret. It's rulings, not rules. We've already seen it with
Mhm.
the Haragon stuff with Jumpgate and stuff like that. But like, what do you think? What could Wizards do in an update that help actually DMs that want to just play stuff out of the book?
Honestly, and I recognize this isn't feasible, but I think the best thing that we could do is that kind of appendix thing I was talking about earlier, where you keep the like in the description short and relatively understandable, but then you can have that like PDF or whatever for those people that do need more context, those people who do need to better understand how something works. Uh, and to keep it with the Harangon thing, Jeremy Crawford said, "Oh, well, if you look at long jump and high jump, those talk about using movement. This doesn't talk about it being a long jump or a high jump. But you know what it does say? It says it's a jump, and the jump rule in the book says this is a strength based activity. So you can't point to part of the rule, but
Yeah,
not point to the other part of the rule in the same sentence. So having those specific examples in the elongated version, you could say this Harangon ability doesn't use movement. It's outside of the normal jump rules. I to me that's such an easy thing to do.
yeah, and Wizards actually has precedent with this sort of service, at least on their Magic the Gathering side. There is whenever I think it's called Gather, it's on their main site. You can search up all the cards and stuff. Pretty much, it's their image search for their cards. But under there, there's actual rulings, and they'll give you erratas and everything, and they'll even give you the date where the errata was made, or actually specify rulings just in case words are really complex, or how they'll interact with other cards. So I think like if this evolution where it has a digital component with a VTT with a database of just rules that you can search up and everything. Um, I don't see them not doing something like that. I think that's more helpful, if especially those that want to play raw, like that you're playing rules as written. Um, obviously, you're playing your home game. Most home games are rules as intended, or
Mhm.
rules as you need it, as you guys want to play for the fun. But for Adventures League, this matters a lot more, um, and for those tables that only play exclusively raw.
Yeah, I'd and I'm not saying it's not already in there, but I'd like to see it re-emphasized, just from the structural ground floor of D&D that this is not the DM versus the players.
Oh
I
yeah,
see so many posts like, "Hey, how can I convince my DM to let me do this? How can I trick my DM this? How like or hey, how can I kill my player?" And if it's like a joke, like that's fine, whatever. But I see so much head to head kind of attitude that I just don't understand. And now I know we're harping on it, but with Adventures League stuff, you see that all the time. People trying to one up everybody, trying to fight the DM. But this, like, we're all playing together. We just have a different role in that game, and the message clearly hasn't been received by the D&D community
yeah,
that this is a cooperative game.
yeah,
Uh, so I think reinforcement on that could be helpful.
yeah. I think part of it too is like with I think we're seeing a clash of like generations with this edition too. Obviously, there's
Mhm.
the old school group of players that obviously they played from first edition all the way until now, and if they're still playing now, they're playing now. But there is a system or that mindset that it is a DM versus player, and the DM has all the power and stuff. But now with an influx of new players like me, I've only been playing tabletop games since fifth edition. Like I came in Princess of Apocalypse. That's when I started playing 5e and really playing seriously playing tabletop role playing games.
Mhm.
But there's a mindset with us newer players that as a SWAT cat even said right there, it's a collaborative game. It's not DM versus player. It is DM and player. The DM is another player of the game. And I'm thinking that as things progress, you're going to see this more positivity. Like I'm seeing even fellow content creators kind of get blasted on Twitter here and there for what didn't used to be controversial DM takes of like how the DM has general power in at the table, and they're getting blasted for stuff that a couple years ago wouldn't have been controversial. It'd be like, yeah, the DM gets to say who sits at the table and stuff. Now it's like, well, no, like it's everybody has to say who's at the table now, and you're just seeing it's more collaborative effort, which I like that change. I tried to do that at my table. I hope for my players that comes across that I really am like if they want to change something because they just are not having fun, that talk to me and I'm super open to it to change it. But yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Just the idea that the players, like when you see a story about, oh, I had this whole thing set up and my players decided to veer off course. Like obviously run your game however you want, but if I'm going to spend like a whole week prepping a dungeon that the players in the last session walked up to the front of the dungeon, and then we start the session and they're like, no, we're gonna do this other thing. Do whatever you want, but me, well, that's the session. We're going in here, and I'm okay with doing a little bit of railroad on stuff like that because I'm a player at the table. I have invested this time, and we're like that's where it's at.
Yeah. Okay. Now, in terms of I
Hot
agree.
take, I
Because,
guess.
I agree with you because I had a combat plan for my party about a week or so ago, and they completely just dodged it. They were just like, "No, we're not gonna fight this boss. We're just not. We'll come back to him later." And it's, they were needing to fight a Hell Knight that's tied to one of the players' backgrounds, and my brother he was the player. He's playing battle master fighter, and they have the ability. They're level 7 now that they could study a person for a minute to 10 minutes or something like that and figure out their AC and HP and stats in general. So I told him, okay, we get to figure out too. And he's like, I want to know AC and I want to know HP. I'm like, cool. Showed him the character, and then he was just like, oh, we're not fighting that. It was total meta, but then he was trying to explain, and one of the other players was kind of getting a little meta. I was like, well, what is the AC and HP? And they were acting in character, and I had to remind him, your character has no concept of what those are. Like, it's not HP and AC don't exist in your world.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Like reinforcing a collaborative game and stuff is,
and then that goes both ways.
Yeah, and it goes both
player
ways.
to player or player to
yeah. All right. In terms of obviously player options, you don't get to play too much, but obviously you like me have a bunch of characters in the chamber just ready to go. What player options, classes, and subclass, more specifically, do you hope get the fix they need?
Oh man, that's a good question. I guess I would love to see some of the races, and this might be more of a 6E kind of thing than a 5E thing, but I like the idea of races getting to choose from their abilities. So again, this might be stepping on Pathfinder's toes, but if you're a goblin, you can choose 3 of 5 goblin abilities or something like that. So that way you have a little bit of variety, and it's not every single goblin is exactly the same with its abilities. I think that can give a feeling of customization. And yes, I'm sure it'll work out where everyone has the strongest pick of those options or whatever. But I think that modularity could really spice things up. And then you could add more options in the future if you wanted to do like a sub race of goblins or something. Maybe these cave goblins can pick superior dark vision or something, and that way they're making a choice. So you're not just boosting their power level, but they're customizing it. I think it could be really, really cool.
What's going on, Rich? Thank you for jumping in, buddy.
Hey, Rich.
Haven't seen you in a bit. Hat Matter, Josh, you mentioned that from a business perspective, Wizards has no incentive but to fundamentally change D&D. True, but more relevant is that there's no perspective from the RPG community. Wizard has, to their credit, been working on building and contributing to the RPG community for years. Honestly, from the RPG community, if they want a new edition, they need to stop buying 5th edition. We can say it as loud as we want. We want big changes. We want massive changes. And in today's world where Twitter and social media can like kind of push those changes, obviously we've seen with a lot of stuff where we're getting changes, but not the massive changes and overhaul that we want, or that vocal group wants. But if you any sort of change, businesses, you vote with your money. You want to see a new edition, you don't buy 5th edition anymore. That's what it comes down to. Um, and that's on a massive scale. You gotta stop buying it if you really want to see a massive change to a different sort of game. Um, as long as 5th edition's popular, you're gonna get a bit more 5th edition, even if they update it. When they do update it, you're gonna get more 5th edition esque stuff. And that comes to another thing, like maybe the game for a group that wants more of a mod, like super hyper modular games, a 5th edition might not be the game for you, and that's fine. But at the same time, too, player experience and what's at your table, if your group, you're kind of locked into whatever your group wants to play too. Like I understand that frustration. Sometimes you want to play a more modular game, and then you're kind of forced to kind of just play in 5th edition. So
yeah. That's a really interesting point there, right? So we'll have 10 years of regular 5, right? And then and just calling it 5.5. Let's say we do another 5 years of that or whatever. So 15 years. So we'll run we can always make up new stuff, but we'll run out basically of like class or character options, right? Like class or races. How many races are there that we haven't made into playable races that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's when you get 6E, once you've totally squeezed all that milk from that rock.
Okay, I see your point, Hat Matter. That this would be something like Hasbro would be like, "Hey, you've done good with 5th edition. Okay, make us another 5th edition." The thing with that, big businesses like Hasbro and other big corporations, they like assurance. They want to guarantee they're going to make money, so they will not bet on them trying to do a massive new edition unless they know 5th edition is not making them money anymore. They will sit there and push, because there is a big push for Wizards of the Coast to be Hasbro's digital wing. If you guys haven't noticed that, they've bought a couple of small video game developers, with Magic Arena being another digital product that they're going to release, or that's been releasing out, and they have pretty much digital Magic the Gathering. You're seeing Wizards being forced to kind of push in that direction, and I think Hasbro now is attempting to do that with the D&D side, because obviously Hasbro is not dumb. They see that there's Roll20, they see D&D Beyond, they see all these other VTTs popping up, and they're just like, well, why can't we get a cut of that? It's our game that everybody's profiting off of.
Yeah.
You know? Thank you for the sub, Shark Pride. Thank you. But yeah, so I think it's gonna be a cautious thing that they're gonna do. All right. Kind of jump back to what we were saying about player options. I actually agree with you, Eric, about the race thing. That's something I would hope would come in. I know when Tasha's came out, I was hoping for a big old system of a modular race lineage system, and it described exactly how, as you said, you want to play a goblin, but you have X amount of cultural options that give you a set of either not necessarily stats, but give you a set of abilities that you can pick and choose from, and then going into you get more options as you go with your background in your class. And then what I wanted to do was a step further. Is like every time they released a setting book, you'd be introduced more cultural options that fit within the setting of that game.
Yeah.
And that would also have a bit of lore and a bunch of other stuff. And I think for me, that would be a better system, so that you would get to mix and match things. Also, I would like to see a decoupling of racial stats. They've already done it already from race, and just put those into your background and into your class.
Yeah, I love that background idea. I think that's such an easy way to take care of that.
It makes backgrounds more important. Obviously, they would just need to generate more, and even probably make backgrounds a little bit more modular.
And you could even keep them as pick whatever you want.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, because even then they can just be like, okay, well, if you're going to be a blacksmith, choose one out of these three options. Give you a
Yeah.
set of options, and then obviously when you go in your class, if you're going to play a wizard, there's no point in taking any other stat besides intelligence. It's just your class is anytime you're going to min max your class, whatever, or you're building your class with
Yeah. Your
Tasha's rules,
focus.
you're going to focus on the main stat that powers your class anyway. So it might as well just put that +2 into their main stat. And for me, that would be the perfect way to encourage character building, um, and character fantasy and concept identity. I think that's the big for me as with my channel and the way I focus more on role playing and more on the story side of stuff. Um,
Mhm.
though having the mechanics that reinforce a sort of story and a narrative, I think I would want to see more of that. Um, in terms of balance and classes, do you know which ones that you hope they hit?
For classes, a million people have said it, but adding spells known for the existing sorcerers, I think, would be a very, very easy option. Uh, I'm not a monk guy. I'm not I'm not treant monk over here, just obliterating it. But I've never been a fan of the monk, so I'd like to see a total rework of the monk, but I don't have good info behind that one. Uh, I some of the class leveling systems I think are wonky, like paladin not getting like a real ability until 15th level, like an active ability
Yeah,
until 15th level usually, I think is just bananas.
no,
Like if you ever design a homebrew paladin, they're not getting anything special really,
yeah.
like active until 15th level, which obviously most games don't even go to that. So that one paladin, just restructure all of those. And I don't know.
Yeah, like Paladin.
Yeah.
I don't know. Paladin's just not my playstyle. I know it's a very, very strong subclass, but or class in general, and just in terms of like one of the better martial classes, but it just doesn't suit my playstyle. One of those things that just doesn't click for me. Um, I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah,
Steven's there. Capstones.
capstones,
Yeah,
absolutely, especially PHB, or the original capstones, like, paladins have that
yeah,
based into their subclass, right? But
yeah. For me, obviously, sorcerer. I agree with you. Sorcerer needs more spells. I would love for them to rework all the PHB ones and give them an expanded spell list. Ones that are flavorful
yeah,
to the
of course.
to that subclass, and it would just help them go a long way. Wild magic sorcerer, I would want a rework on their main ability to have it so that the player has control of how it functions instead of having the DM have to decide.
Mhm.
Part of this is um, bookkeeping on both sides. The player will have more control of how they want to use it, and the DM will be able to react, and the DM won't have to be active in being the one having to keep track of making that happen. I've played with a wild magic sorcerer, and he constantly had to tell my DM, "Hey, do I roll? Do I roll? Do I roll?" You know, and
Yeah.
when to the point, I think towards the end, we're just automatically roll because it's like it's the only reason why you took the class. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's been
just always on. That's what I like with whenever you have it. And just give Eldritch Blast to Warlock. The so they get so few cantrip
yeah,
choices that just giving it to them
yeah,
isn't gonna be a big deal. And that's before even getting into, like, modifications of it. Like, if I'm a Celestial Warlock, let me just like, it's a downgrade, right? But let me
yeah,
just do, um, radiant damage with it.
yeah,
And I know that can get into the charisma modifiers if you take the invocations or whatever, but and give invocation style stuff to everybody. Give battle master style stuff to everybody.
yeah,
These little customizations. That's I don't know. If I were to see a full rework, it would be just more and more and more and more options,
yeah. More options.
but
Yeah,
not hard options.
yeah.
Simple, easy to understand options.
And I think with fifth edition in general, it's matured enough that they can introduce these softer choice options, at least for the enfranchised players, and just keep them as optional rules. That'd be the easiest thing, because obviously,
Yeah.
with the way that they're looking at the market, they're looking to just expand new players. Period. With every adventure they release, with every book that they come out, it's more so, oh hey, here That's why your adventures are from levels 1 to 8, 1 to 10, 1 to
Mhm.
13. Other classes I would like to see monk, and I'm a fan of the monk. Big thing, I like, me and my brother used to do martial arts from when we were like 3 and 4 till we were like 15. Like, so like my whole early childhood was all karate. So monk is just as like as a place in my heart of just like being able to play that sort of like martial arts master fantasy in D&D. Um but it does need a rework. It's viable, and I think that's what optimizers and min-maxers don't really comprehend, is that they're not the most damage powerful, and obviously whenever you choose that for a martial class, you need to be the most damage powerful. Um, but they are a viable class, but they need a rework because their whole stick is stunning strike, and that's it. It
Yeah.
like, I would love for the monk to be the martial controller striker class, that they have multiple options to control the battlefield in a martial sense. Like, they're the ones that are disabling, disarming, and pretty much like maybe a little bit of a stronger battle master fighter, but they're mainly
Yeah.
doing status effects in a melee sense, and also buff up ki, give you more ki, because it's, and then decouple some of the subclasses away from utilizing ki and just riding off of some of your main key abilities from the monk itself. I think
Yeah.
fixing a lot of that stuff, I think, would help the monk go a long way. Um, Shout out to Indestructible Boy and all the designers in his Discord, because they every week there's a conversation about how much they hate the monk and how they would go about fixing it. Uh, but it's interesting seeing it, because it's like, it's not that they hate the monk because they don't like it. They are frustrated with it because they want it to be better.
Yeah.
They see the potential in it, and they just want the monk to be good. And that's pretty much where a lot of that stems from. And I see it. It's not that they don't want it out of the game. Um,
One of my Patreon PDFs that we've got is it's a Druid Circle of Iron. So it's like a melee based Druid. That's one of the I don't I'm still shocked that we don't have a melee focused Druid.
we we have
Use that
a
scimitar.
Yeah, we have a light one, which is the Circle of Spores. But I think what hurts that is
Yeah.
the fact that your fungal form is tied to a temp HP and not just active period. Whenever you go into it, playing a fungal spore druid for a Ravnica campaign, that was like the big thing. I really wanted to be a melee druid and just, hit people with booming blade, and I was mixing
Sure.
booming blade, and I had a weird booming blade build with a fungal druid
Yeah.
for spores, and but that's the big thing, that it's supposed to be melee, but the fact that your temp HP is tied to your form, and as soon as you lose all that temp HP, you have no incentive to be in melee. So
Yeah. I really liked what you said about uh updated crafting system.
yeah,
I think that's a big ask though, because campaigns vary so much.
yeah,
So when you're talking like weeks of downtime to craft something, but if your campaign is designed to happen over like a month or something, like that's just not feasible. So I guess I would want to see a couple options of it. Like if
yeah,
you like a short time frame, a medium time frame, like a suggested, and then like a long campaign. Like sometimes people have campaigns that in universe take years.
yeah,
So those weeks of downtime, that's no problem. So, so I think that's just it's a heavier ask than it might seem to make that
yeah.
actually usable.
Yeah, because for part of the thing with the crafting system in general, it those kind of systems, every time I see them, are very intricate, and they don't line up with fifth edition's design philosophy. And I don't think, especially if this new edition's, whatever the heck it's going to be, is backwards compatible, meaning they're sticking with the same design philosophy. They're not going to change really anything. It's going to be give you options, but as simple as possible. Simplify it, make it as straightforward, using natural language and everything, and a crafting system as much as I would like it. Um, and it would help classes like the artificer, and then subclasses like forge domain cleric and anybody else that does crafting things. Um, it would help players get into that flavor a little bit more, but it just doesn't line up with the design philosophy as it is now.
Yeah. Yeah. In video games, I absolutely love crafting. Dragon Age I love the crafting system there. Especially even in Dragon Age 2.
Yeah,
uh, but it's just and I'd love to be a crafter in the game, but it's just crafting is easy, or I think is best when it's like a single player game or an MMO
Yeah.
where you're able to do it by yourself,
Yeah.
basically. Once you have to have a party, even if you have great crafting rules, then it's still basically one person doing something, then the rest of the table watching.
Yeah, I agree. Rich said, keep crafting in an advanced D&D book, more advanced rule books and beginner's rule book. Give them a traffic light color code. Oh, that'd be interesting. I can see that. Okay, last thing. In terms of book rollout for this new edition and adventures, what do you hope they do or change or keep the same?
Ooh, uh, so I'm conflicted on that one too. So I do like the idea generally of getting lots of books, right? For me as a YouTuber, it's lots of content, which is great. Um, but it can be a lot, and I think actually we see it in the miniature world too. WizKids is putting out more and more minis, which is great. We have more mini options, but it's expensive. I don't get minis for free. If you if you're listening, WizKids, let me know. But even then, putting out like just it's a collection thing, right? Like I have all the books on my shelf, all the 5e books, but I don't use all the 5e books, but it's a collection thing, just like with the minis. So adding all of these up starts to get to a point where people can't keep up. And people that want to keep up can't keep up, except for the uh, people with a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
And so then it becomes a situation of a new person saying, "Oh, there are 300 books and they're all $50 each. Maybe this game isn't for me." It's the same as with the minis.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to get into some minis. I want to start DMing. Oh, minis are $16 a box now instead of like 12 or whatever we used to be. So it's just, it adds up and it grows. And so I get to a point where I'm concerned about new incoming blood being driven off.
Yeah, with the backwards compatibility thing, I don't know. Like it makes sense why, as a business standpoint, why they want to keep that. New editions obviously make it easier for people to just be like, okay, well, cool. I don't have to pick up any of those books. I can just play the new thing, and that's a new player entry. Like for me, like this year has been probably the hardest year for books and just having to spend money on books. Like back to back, 3 months, 3 books, and then we've had already 1 or 2 books prior in the beginning of the year. That's a lot of books. I wouldn't mind seeing a slight slowdown, but at the same time, I'm the type of person that likes to see new content. In terms of books, I would want to see new settings. I want a setting that is dedicated to the system itself. Forgotten Realms is cool, but it's kind of
well,
bland.
let's just get off the Sword Coast. Forgotten Realms is great. Let's just get off the Sword Coast.
Either get off the Sword Coast, go explore some of the other parts of the world. Hire people that of the cultural background and ethnic backgrounds that you're going to be using for those parts of the setting in the Forgotten Realms. Hire people to help you write those things, to look over those things. But I want to see new settings that aren't necessarily Magic the Gathering settings. I know we're getting 2 new settings that are completely brand new that aren't Magic the Gathering settings, but that's what I want to see. I want to see new settings that are dedicated to the system to exemplify why everybody loves 5th edition and why 5th edition or 5.5e D&D Evolution, whatever it's going to be, or why it's such a strong system and it really like reinforces it. I think every setting so far, or every edition, has had that setting that does that. Spelljammer, yes, okay, obligatory. Yes, I want to see Spelljammer in 5th edition.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we have to say it. Yes, but
I want to address the other thing Rich said there about whales. So, and I know this is a little bit of a tangent with the minis with WizKids, but minisgallery.com, that's where all the big time mini people go, and where I'm the small fish. I have a wall of minis here, but you have people with 100,000 minis on there, 20, 50, 75,000 minis, literally, not exaggerating, on there, with entire rooms dedicated, like as big as you can get. And all we see over there are comments: too many minis. these box sets, these collector sets that have exclusive. That's the only way you can get that many is to buy it in the $750 box set. But then if you buy that, you're only getting one of each mini. Versus if you were to buy bricks, yeah, you're getting all of them, but you're also getting dozens of copies and dozens of extras. So your price per mini ratio is just absurd. And so all these exclusive things, that's what starts to tiptoe into the troublesome water where even the whales are like too deep for me. And I think the idea of the as people have said in the chat, the DLC, right?
Yeah.
With that PDF for the Domains of Delight. I think that idea is cool, but I absolutely think it should be free. I
Yeah.
don't think it should be $8 or whatever it is. I think doing that supplemental stuff is fantastic, but putting it behind a paywall, I think is terrible. I think that's an
Yeah.
awful idea.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I saw that, and that was it threw me off when I was flipping through the Witchlight book and saw that it said, "Oh, hey, but if you want to do more, go to this PDF on DM's Guild." I was like, man, okay. Like, I get why we're living in a heavily monetized, unregulated, really society right now in terms of how
Yeah.
companies are trying to nickel and dime our time. So I don't blame them because they have to kind of keep up with everybody else, but at the same time, it's not consumer friendly whatsoever.
Yeah.
Um,
Just you use that book call out to DM's Guild to get your people to DM's Guild, to get them on that platform. And then you'll make your money. You just I clearly I really don't like that is paid. I
yeah.
think that should be free.
In terms of what other books I personally want to see, obviously more settings, more settings, more settings, more settings. But I do want to see like another big mega adventure, like one that goes from level 1 to 20. I know they're never gonna stop doing intro level adventures because it's just a nice entryway point to get people into the game. But I think fifth edition and going into this whatever it is now, there's enough people invested into the game that they can start catering to it. And if they don't cater to it, or at least give people proper tools to make these high level stuff, um, those people are gonna fall off. In the long run,
Yeah.
those people fall off.
I'd like to, and I know this is a little bit more work, right? But I would like to see adventures that are like scalable. So if you can play it like tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3, and then you pick. And I remember there were some DM, some Adventures League modules that were similar to this, where it would give you, if you're doing it at tier 1, use this monster stat block. If you're doing it at tier 4, use this monster stat block, and then you can very easily just list the DCs, and it's a little more work, but I would love to see something like that, especially for like the big iconic adventures that they wanna push. I think that because most people you're probably gonna do start at level 1, but you might have people who do start it at level 5, or you might have crazy people who go and start it all the way at level 17. I don't know. I think
That's probably like the best
I'd like to
and
see.
easiest fix to just having a scalable adventure.
Yeah.
Right. Looking at the time, I think that about does it. Yeah, pretty much. Final thoughts. What are your final thoughts on this whole thing? You think it's getting
I'm excited.
overblown?
I'm excited to see 3 years from now.
Yeah.
Now, no, they said next year, right? We're going to start getting some actual information. I fully expect that to mean Q4 of next year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I very much look forward to seeing how it rolls out, and then the back and forth. Because just like you, I started with 5e. I mean, I played like Baldur's Gate, the original ones on the computer, but actual tabletop stuff. 5e was my first one, so I look forward to that iteration and that launch and the play testing and seeing all that go forward.
I the biggest thing I can say anybody that's looking excited and everybody out there, caution. Temper your expectations. It's not. I don't expect it to be this big overhaul, but 3 years from now is a long time. Things could change. Fifth edition could flop. All of a sudden, they just release stuff that just terrible that just flops the game, and then we see this big push for a new edition. Um, but I think temper your expectations. I personally don't think D&D is going to go into editions anymore. That's my own personal thing. I think you're going
It's just
to
called D&D. Yeah.
I think from a marketing standpoint, it makes much more sense if you're going to have your game featured in stuff like Stranger Things and other bigger franchises, and people are interested in saying and seeing the game. It's easier to point to these newer players and say, "Hey, go pick up that D&D book," instead of saying, "Hey, go pick up D&D Fifth Edition," but you got to make sure you got to get this book, that book, this book to play, or make sure you get this new edition of the game. Um, the biggest draw why Fifth Edition has been so popular is because of how easily accessible the game has been, but how good it's been marketed to other franchises and other parts of the media, and how and sucking players in. You're getting a lot of new players, and Hasbro is aware of this. Wizards is aware of this. So with these new players, them asking a lot of questions of like, well, which books do I need? From a marketing standpoint, it's easier to just say, oh yeah, just go pick up that D&D book. They're launching their movie in a year or so, and there's going to be a lot more, regardless of how good or bad that movie is. There's going to be a lot more casual folks. And what I mean by casual moviegoers, that's not anybody in this chat, and that's not either me or Eric. We're not the casual moviegoer.
No.
Or casual players
D&D,
or D&D enthusiasts.
Enthusiasts.
Yeah, we're D&D enthusiasts. Like, it's more so the kind of audience they're trying to pull in is the people that started watching or got into the Marvel Cinematic Universe but never picked up a comic book. They're just sucked into it now because somebody said, "Hey, go come and check out Avengers with me. Come check out Captain America: Civil War with me," and then just got all hooked into hooked into all these movies. It's those people, these very casual moviegoers, and if they get interested in playing D&D, it's so much easier. And I think for Wizards designing, and as long as they have a successful system, there's no need for them to change it, at least from a monetary standpoint. Now they can just tell people, here's a D&D book, go play D&D. Not 5th edition, not 4th, not 3, just go play D&D. So
now, Josh, can you reply to the rumor that's going around that all the races are going to be removed and replaced with Banderhobs? What's your take on that?
There's no confirmation. This is all speculative, but heard through the grapevine that they're going to come out with another supplement, like an expansion to Tasha's, that is replacing with another new rule, a variant rule, that everybody is a Banderhob. That is the rule.
Yeah. Can confirm. Thank you, SWAT Cat. That's the official guidance right there.
Yeah. All right.
Banderhobtober, y'all.
Yeah, Banderhobtober. But yeah. So that's a big thing. Temper your expectations. It's not going to be this great big overhaul. It's going to be the game. If you already love the game, it's going to just be more of that. They're going to just fix some of the things we have problems with. On a mechanical level, they're going to fix things, and I think they are going to fix some of the social narrative things that they have a problem with it. They're slowly doing it now. We've seen it in the Ravenloft campaign. I know they've already said coming soon we're going to see changes to the Drow. Eventually, I assume they're going to start changing stuff for orcs and half orc, and change some of that language to be more of mindful of what some of that older language that was carried over actually means. I know there's going to be the whole thing of woke D&D, woke WotC. It's not about that negative wokeness. It's more so understanding how that language and stuff reinforces negativity, and addressing it so that everybody is invited to the table, and everybody can just come in and feel comfortable just playing D&D. Because at the end of the day, that's what you want at the table. You want people that want to come play the same game you love and not push them away. So I think we're going to get more of that. All right, Eric, I think it's time. What you got going on next? What can people expect, and where can they find you?
Oh, well, first of everybody, thank you for being here and watching us ramble on. I appreciate it. But check it out. YouTube.com/FryMinis, Twitter.com/FryMinis, Instagram.com/FryMinis, Discord.gg/FryMinis. Come celebrate #BanderHobtober. We've got free content, painting contest, win some money, have some fun, come hang out with us. And of course, patreon.com/FryMinis. But yeah, that's it. Julie and I have fun farting around over here. So hope to see you. Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely go join the Discord every Friday. They have a mostly mini painting, but it's like a little get together in their voice chat, video chat, and they pop in. I pop in from time to time. I know now I haven't been able to because my game got moved to Fridays. We moved my game to Fridays,
Yeah.
so I haven't been able to pop in. But when I get a chance, I will pop in. I'm in that Discord too. I will talk.
Convenient excuse.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely pop in. But yeah, as always, support content creators. Go support Eric on Fry Minis. If you don't have to always throw money. Obviously, the best way to support any of the channels, like, comment, subscribe on all their videos. If you want to support here on Dungeoneer's Pack, you can do the same. Want to support us more directly, patreon.com/Dungeoneer's Pack, or right here on YouTube, become a Dungeoneer. You get access to a bunch of cool, fun stuff. And yeah, follow us on the socials. The socials are all in the description below. I'm tired of saying it every time because I bungle it up. So,
or just show up at Josh's house and give him a big hug. His address is
getting doxxed.
Put it on screen.
I'm getting doxxed.
Yeah.
Oh. But yeah. Again, if you haven't checked out this week, I put out a Duragar video. Duragar.
A what?
A Duragar. Video going over the lore and the mechanics to kind of help you take that evil race and how to turn it into something that's more complex, maybe a bit of an anti-hero and a hero. If you haven't checked it out, definitely go check that video out. It was a fun one. Might be one of the last race videos I do for a while, though. We'll see. Those take some time. But yeah.
Vanderborn. Yep. Do a Vanderborn video. Yeah. It'll be your most popular video of all time.
All right. Again, thank you guys. Thank you, Eric, for showing up and coming in, joining me. We'll definitely
Thanks for having me.
I will definitely have you back again. We got some books to be covering soon, so
yeah, we do.
Definitely, I hope Eric will come back for that, and we'll probably see some other faces, hopefully to bring some back and some new faces too. Join us talking about the new stuff. All right, so until next time, guys, you guys have a good one and peace.
Ciao.